I'm Billy S, and today I'm ranking my top 7 DLC areas in Soulsborne. These are the levels I love to play through from each DLC. Though there is a tiny bit of housekeeping, for Shadow of the Erdtree, it's so massive, I limited myself to Legacy dungeons and their surrounding areas. As such, I do need to give an honourable mention to the Jagged Peak. It's one of my favourite areas in Soulsborne from an aesthetic perspective, and it has the hilarious distinction of having one of my top 10 favourite bosses in the series, in Bale the Dread, while also having one of my top 10 least favourite bosses in the series in Ancient Dragon Cesadia. Versatility on full display, but as it's not a legacy dungeon, I didn't want to include it in this video. So let's jump in with... At number 7, we have Midra's Manse from Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, which yes, also is not a legacy dungeon, but it's the closest you're gonna get. When I originally ranked the Shadow of the Erdtree areas a few years ago, I wasn't content with the rankings I'd actually given them. A part of me felt like I needed to give the DLC some time to really mull things over, and the best beneficiary came in the form of Midra and his Manse. From the moment you enter the Abyssal Woods and are greeted by a terrified horse and psychotic sheep, you know you're in for a real treat. I've always loved when FromSoft delve into horror. Their formula works incredibly well at building up tension, but merging the horror with gameplay elements brought things to a whole nother level, be it the aforementioned horse deciding to dip out, or the way they use developer messages to ramp up the scare while you wander the woods. It all comes together to create a wholly unique experience in the series. The old ones are admittedly still a bit of a disappointing reveal. I was expecting something a little more threatening, a little more gargantuan than orange winter lanterns, but they get the job done and the stealth mechanics are well implemented. But the manse itself is where it's really at. Finding this mansion in the middle of this desolate forest, abandoned by time, home to only ghosts and worshippers, is one hell of a reveal. There's something inherently terrifying about the place, with its dilapidated furniture and horrifying notes that paint an insane picture of the mansion's former owners. You can hear the agonizing screams of Midra every time you enter the entrance hall, leading to the eventual encounter with the Lord of Frenzied Flame. It all just works. If only the actual mansion was more elaborate, I truly think this could have been one of the best FromSoft areas of all time. There's an element of interconnectivity as you wind your way through the left wing and the right wing that really reminded me of Resident Evil. I was left wanting more and more and more, but because it manages to hit enough of my personal favourite notes, it still lands in my top 7 and I will not be taking any counter-offers. At number 6, we have the Painted World of Ariandel from Dark Souls 3. Now, I've got a lot of new viewers recently, so I should explain. I might be the only Soulsborne fan in existence that doesn't really enjoy the Ringed City. It's most people's favourite area in the game. I understand why, but it's never really done it for me. Enemies I dislike fighting, level design that doesn't really feel cohesive, an ugly-ass swamp that I don't care for. I could go in more depth, but that's not this video's topic, I'm afraid. On the flip side, I really like that Ariandel, despite having less enemy variety, manages to keep you on your toes throughout the expansion. From the snowfield you cross on your way to the chapel, complete with Farron followers, a hunting pack of wolves, and the towering Millwood Knights, these enemies are genuinely fun to fight despite their threatening nature. I didn't even mention the Dryads, they're super cool, one of FromSoft's best designs. I still think that being able to skip the entire area though by running up this hill is a bit silly, but the first part of this DLC was always the weakest. Ariandel really lands on this list because of that second half. You've got the Chapel of Sister Freed, where outside you can break a rope bridge to climb down some dangerous routes to the frozen lake below. I may dislike Gravetender and Great Wolf, but I concede that their arena is fucking gorgeous. Beautiful gowns, beautiful gowns. Then you have the Corvian Settlement and the mountains beyond, which are some of my favourite areas to explore in Dark Souls 3, I can't lie to you. The settlement, while not vast, contains one of my favourite enemies in all of Soulsborne, the Corvian Knights, who wield either a giant rapier or claw-like talons with precision and speed. They are icons, they are legends, and they'll fuck you up in a randomized run of Dark Souls 3. We have the dulcet tones of Sir Wilhelm, like butter for the ears, and the mountains leading to the rot nest behind the town are a maze I love getting lost in. So many twists, turns, hidden enemies that appear from the snow, shortcuts, cliffs, random earthquakes because the Millwood Knights have the tracking of gods, it all adds up. The nest is a bit mid, but it's literally 2 rooms and you're done, so I can't complain too much. I just think Ariandel's level design is stronger than the Ringed City, contains far less in the way of annoying elements, and just lets the world breathe a little bit. I'd rather that than getting ganked by bugs, curse-inflicting crystal dudes, and cleric turtles who can stagger-lock you in a deadly magic circle, Ringed City. At number 5, we have Eleum Loyce from Dark Souls 2. Whether you love the game or hate it, it can't be denied that the 3 DLCs all have some of the tightest level design in the series. And while Shulver Sanctum City laid the groundwork, for me it was the 2 following DLCs that hit it out of the park. Eleum Loyce is an interesting place to explore because it splits itself cleanly into 2 distinct sequences, pre-frozen and post-frozen. In the pre-frozen state, you have to explore the snow-whipped city until you find the Eye of the Priestess, which allows you to view Ava in her boss arena. The majority of active enemies are the icy crystal hollows, as well as a couple of ghosts in the upper half of the battlements. There are some witches who remain stationary, and frozen enemies that are encased in ice. Effectively, the first third of this DLC is all about exploring and familiarizing yourself with Eleum Loyce without too much danger. That way, once the city unfreezes, you have a few directions you know you can take. You have to save a series of knights who will then help you in the final boss, and each knight is hidden down a different path, whether it's trying not to awaken stone golems in the underside of the battlements, or climbing down perilous platforming to reach a knight in the lower city, or, most infamously, heading into hedgehog territory to find the knight in the furthest reaches. Along the way, countless fun interactions take place, such as 2 distinct player phantoms who troll you in hilarious fashion, one by using the mimic ability to become an item to hide from the player, the other pretending to be a friend before backstabbing you when you let your guard down. This is all on top of being able to explore areas you've already checked, now unfrozen and with new dangers to overcome. An unfrozen mimic, a flexile sentry, a covetous demon. I just think Eleum Loyce had a lot of thought put into its concept, and the execution is absolutely fantastic. It's so Metroidvania coded, which for me is an insane positive. Not my favourite DLC area in Dark Souls 2, but certainly one of the best ice levels in the series. At number 4, we have the Shadow Keep from Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree. So I still hold fast to the belief that of the traditional Legacy dungeons, the Shadow Keep is the best that the DLC has to offer in Elden Ring. But it is another Ringed City situation where I'm not as high on this dungeon overall as some of the other fans of the series are, just to a lesser extent this time. My main complaint comes from the Specimen Storehouse, which, while a completely serviceable vertical level that provides a ton of unique challenges and has you facing off against Mesmer's Knights, doesn't intrigue me all that much. The scenery here is very samey, and it's easy to get lost since every floor looks the same. But I do love the idea of raising the statues in order to climb higher, and the secret path to the rooftop rafters that ultimately lead you to Gaius is a well-hidden secret. For me, my favourite parts of the Shadowkeep are the outer areas. The sick bay leading towards the ruins of Rao is a short yet harrowing experience as you see a makeshift hospital for all those who were stuffed into jars by the people of the tower. Of course Mesmer would try to ease their suffering given they are his people by way of his mother. Or the keep past the Golden Hippo with its hidden courtyard and secrets to discover, such as the illusory wall that will eventually take you all the way to the Abyssal Woods. There are children screaming outside, god damn it. But the best area by far is the flooded church district. It's like a fun revisit to New Londo ruins from 1, but now we have actual parkour mechanics. The game is allowed to be a little more challenging in how you progress. Hopping over flotsam and jetsam, wondering what lies beneath the water that is making all those slithering crashing sounds, the exploding hollows you have to avoid lest you get flung into the water, it's great fun. A shame that once you drain the water, it's revealed those noises came from ulcerated tree spirits, but you can't win them all, can you? This area also conceals the path to the Shadow Tree Avatar boss, which is one of my personal favourites in Elden Ring. I just enjoy that the Shadowkeep's various sections each offer a unique gameplay experience, and you have multiple ways to even enter the building in the first place. It all culminates in one of the best bosses in all of Soulsborne, Messmer the Impaler, and very much deserves its place on this list. But like I said near the start, I do like the Shadowkeep, I just don't adore it like I do my top 3 DLC areas in Soulsborne. At number 3, we have the Hunter's Nightmare from Bloodborne. You know, it's funny, Bloodborne was one of the last Soulsborne games I had the opportunity to play. I've probably played it less than any of the other games put together aside from Demon Souls, and yet it remains my absolute favourite. I like to cherish each playthrough, savour it like a fine wine. Perhaps that's why the Hunter's Nightmare remains so enchanting now as it was when it first released to the public. A fucked up dreamscape that merges Cathedral Ward and Central Yharnam into a river of blood that stems from deep within the city. You thought the rest of Bloodborne had too much blood, Hunter's Nightmare has gallons of it. The enemies here take things up a notch, especially the various old hunters who act as foils for the player, yet being drunk off the hunt, they still cut down beasts if their attention wavers from you. The squid-like knights guarding the Chapel of Lawrence is also quite the enemy type. They show up again towards the end of the Nightmare, and yet no matter how they appear, I always found them to be the most threatening enemies. Exploration in the Nightmare is just so much fun, not only because we're using our own knowledge of the regular versions of the world to navigate, but also because we're constantly finding new toys to play with as we go. Bloodborne's DLC added so many new weapons and firearms to play with, many of which can be found off the beaten path here in the Nightmare. The Amygdalan arm, the Gatling gun, the Whirligig sword, the beast claws, and so many more, trust me. The only part of this level that I dislike are the Bloodlicker enemies, but they're few and far between. There are countless side paths with little mini-bosses to face, enemies around every corner, and the whole Nightmare ends with an encounter against Ludwig the Accursed, considered by many to be one of the best bosses in the franchise, with one of the best boss themes to boot. On a good day, this actually is my favourite DLC area in Bloodborne. Is today a good day though? Not actually. Because at number 2, we have the Fishing Hamlet from Bloodborne the Old Hunters. Between the last entry and this, I go back and forth constantly over which of these two zones I prefer, but I think the unique atmosphere that comes with the Fishing Hamlet has to account for something, and it's ultimately more my style. I love the ocean. I actually grew up in a fishing village in the UK, so the hamlet reminds me a lot of my childhood, just without the giant shark monsters and more with seagulls stealing your chips. The eternal rain here just adds to this sense of melancholy around the town, but I adore it. The enemies here are all unique, citizens converted into fishmen by the curse, warped by the corpse of Koz on the beach. The giant sharks are a point of contention with their aggression, but I won't go too deep into the pair in the well for the Rakuyo because everyone's talked about them. I think they're fun to fight though, especially those on the mandatory path. I do have a bone to pick with the shamans though, who strike you down with lightning. They force you to take quick paths through the streets, otherwise you'll slow down and find yourself zapped or worse. From the town square, to the outdoor cliffside huts at the back, to the caverns beneath the town where parasites litter the floors, it's one of the most unique locales in any FromSoft game. You've got multiple different paths you can take, encounters with Braidor where he tries to invade you, a few lovingly placed winter lanterns in the deepest tunnels, and it all caps off with one of the best fights in the series in one of my favourite boss arenas in the series, the Orphan of Koz. You will always be famous. I can't wait to make you in my Tomodachi life island. My only complaint, and it is a small one, is that the Fishing Hamlet is over quicker than I would have liked. After the Research Hall, which is one of the lengthier levels in terms of exploration, the Fishing Hamlet is surprisingly fast to beat. But even so, I'd rather take a zone that's short and sweet over one that overstays its welcome. A perfect balance of difficulty and a full embrace of the game's Lovecraftian themes with one of his most popular books as the base. There was only one level that could overcome the Hamlet in the series. At number 1, we have Brume Tower from Dark Souls 2. Longtime viewers won't be surprised by this pick, but for any new viewers, hi! I adore the second DLC of Dark Souls 2, and I think that Brume Tower is the best vertical level in the entire series. You can check out my video on that. While some areas take inspiration from the Metroid side of Metroidvania, Brume Tower took inspiration from the Castlevania side. You have to work your way from the very top of the structure to the very center, where you'll then need to obtain the Scorching Hot Scepter from a nearby tower to activate the elevators leading to the lowest floors. Along the way, you'll come across parkour puzzles to drop down, rooms filled with unique fire-based enemies that you'll need to carefully kill to progress. You'll emerge outside into the ashes of the cliff sides, avoiding the magic fire of mages while pressing on to reach the next checkpoint, dodging flamethrowers, exploding a lot of barrels, tackling intricately designed rooms that demand spatial awareness, careful planning, and skilled combat. It has it all, ladies and gentlemen. You even have a pick-a-door random chance sequence for all the gambling girlies out there. You know who you are. The concept of needing to find all the idols of Nadalia throughout Brume Tower is a fun way to keep people exploring. Destroying all of her idols with the smelter wedges will grant you her soul, but it is easier said than done. She buffs all enemies around her and can defend herself with rudimentary pyromancy if need be. But with enough exploration, you'll do fine. I love how when the tower activates, you can head down to the Fume Knight, or you can start heading back up the elevators to find hidden wings, or even the armor of Sir Elon for an extra boss. I actually beat this area on Soul Level 1, which was tough as nails. I'm very proud of that achievement, and I would not recommend it ever to anyone. Don't do it, it's painful. But it really allowed me to appreciate how well designed Brume Tower was for the late game when you have a regular build with a properly leveled character. Shout out to the invader who invades you, then runs away to lure you into an enemy-filled tower of darkness, by the way. Or this flamethrower room where you have to open a series of gates while progressing through thin tunnels, which will eventually allow you to reach the side tower with the scepter. Or the invasion of the Prowlers, which has you invaded by not one, but multiple enemies who try to mug you near Sir Elon's armor. Brume Tower is so fucking peak, man. Even the Iron Passage is the least offensive of the 3 DLC sub-areas in Dark Souls 2. It's way more manageable than Cave of the Dead or Frigid Outskirts. I really feel the love that went into the level design here. Nothing feels out of place, everything is there with purpose. And more than anything, it's just fun to play through, regardless of how many times I do it. Which is how DLC should be. These are areas you won't always see early game, so by the time the late game hits, you need these levels to grip you and want you to keep playing. So, which DLC areas are your favourite, and why is it the Ringed City? Let me know below. I'm honestly shocked I didn't include any of the Dark Souls 1 areas. Ulasil Township was on the fringes of this video, but just couldn't compare to the areas I talked about today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to parry that subscribe button. We're almost at 40,000 subscribers. I'm so excited. The channel has been growing tremendously recently. I'm so happy with everything. Thank you so much for the support. And a massive shout out to my YouTube channel members for supporting me for another month. It's $4.99. You get a shout out in the description, end of videos, early access to my Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2 Soul Level 1s, and I have some other videos planned specifically for my members moving forwards. So if you want to follow me, I've got Twitch, I have Blue Sky, I stream here on YouTube. I'll see you next time. Adios.